Welcome back. You should have everything set to start writing your story at this point, but before you start, I want to go over a few game design concepts that could be helpful when writing your text adventure. The three different ideas we're going to cover are false choices, forced choices, and the point of no return. Before we dive into the concepts, I did want to note I don't know if these are the actual names, but I know these concepts exist in games, and I'm going to cover each one in a broader sense and then bring it back to a practical application of how you can use it for your text adventure. A false choice is a concept that relates the closest to our use case. False choices are when a player is presented with a set of choices, but their decision ultimately doesn't impact the story's direction. So why would game designers give you the option to make a decision but then disregard your choice? The answer is straightforward for this one. If you're presented with a set of choices and don't know where these choices will lead, you would assume that your choice was significant. But you know what they say about assuming? Don't do it. That's what they say. Giving a player a choice and then disregarding it can feel strange when you're writing it down, and giving consequences to all presented choices would be ideal, probably, but practically, coming up with all those ideas and creating tangents for everything is a lot of work. So presenting false choices gives the player a feeling of choice, but at the same time, it doesn't increase the workload of a designer or writer. You can see a lot of examples in games doing this. Telltale is one of the more prominent studios popular for their story-driven decision-based games, and they use this tool all the time in their games. Sometimes a decision will have a minor change to the story.
So what's best? AJ, I need your help on this one. In there? Lift me up. Once you're through, unlock this door. You gotta see this, Clem. Huh. They had a good thing going here. Can we stay here? I'll get the key. They had a good thing going here. Can we stay here?
This is great for saving time, but if your player decides to play through your game again, they'll see that their choice didn't matter, and it may take away from their enjoyment. Some players even create a save point to return to that decision and see the different outcomes. In our case, this isn't possible because we're not making a save system, but for your future games, that could be something you have to think about. When false choices are discovered, it will make the entire experience feel a little cheaper. So you don't want to put too many false choices into your game, but when they're scattered throughout, you can still get the benefits without ruining the experience for your player. And if your game is big enough, spreading them out might make it so your player doesn't even realize they encountered one if they replayed it. I put a false choice near the beginning of the story I wrote. This is how that would look like when writing your story tree. So near the beginning of the game, you can see, as you run, you hear a loud screeching sound coming around the corner. OMG, a car is going to hit me, and this is my last opportunity to go back on my decision to risk my life. But will my indecisiveness kill me, or will it be my disregard for danger? Who knows? And then you see the two options that go to the same point. But if whichever one of these you pick, it's still going to lead you down to this path. So it doesn't matter. But like offering that to the players, like, oh, what's the difference? And they could see that if they were to go back and do it again. In a similar vein to false choices, we have forced choices. It's the same concept, but used for a different purpose with one major change. The player knows that their input doesn't matter, but you still offer the choices to them. This seems to make even less sense than the false choice, but it's a storytelling tool rather than a time-saving one. There are a lot of examples in games that use this, and it's almost always used when the consequence of the choice is negative. And it doesn't feel great when it happens. You lose your sense of autonomy and you get a bad outcome, but that's precisely why you use a forced choice. Feelings of dread, anxiety, sadness, or any negative emotion get amplified when you let your player see a potential positive choice they could make, but don't give it to them. We can see the use of forced choices in games outside of a dialogue tree in the indie game Journey. Your goal for this game is to get to this bright light at the top of this mountain, and at the end you start to slow down when you're making your way up this blizzard, but you can't go back, and your goal is very close, so you keep going, but the game slows you down more and more until eventually you fail. Very sad. And it feels like all your efforts through the game were not worth anything. It's not a great feeling, but it is really powerful. There are a few caveats with using this. You can't use this a lot in your game. Doing this too much takes away from that feeling and leads to frustration. Even the first time a player encounters this in your game could result in frustration if done without intent. I would say you should limit this to just once in your game if you're going to use it at all. And it doesn't have to be exactly one time, but during one sequence of your game. Here's my example in the tree. So it actually picks up from the last one. So as you can see, you have an option to leap forward, leap backward, and then accept your fate. I added this extra line where it says, you know that you're going to get hit, but what will you do? As sort of like an indicator saying like, hey, doesn't really matter what you're going to do. You already made a choice that set you on this path. So, you know, you're going to get hit. And then, you know, that's the option. The point of no return. I wrote that in the script, but I don't know if I'm actually going to put... Okay, sounds scary. It isn't really. The point of no return is just a point you can't get back from. It locks off previously accessible parts of the level to encourage you to continue forward. The point of no return is such a standard design practice, and in some cases is not signified that you're about to pass one of these points. More experienced players have probably had an encounter where they wanted to explore more of an area, but didn't have that opportunity to because they accidentally passed one of these points. This creates the behavior of players purposefully ignoring the intended path so they can explore without fear of losing that exploration opportunity. Points of no returns are usually not written out, but enforced by a physical barrier preventing players from returning. They can be a tall ledge a player falls from where they can't climb back up, but they can also be in the form of dialogue. A character or a piece of dialogue might say something like, "Are you sure you want to continue? You might not have a chance to come back," as a very blatant way of saying, make sure you do everything that you want to do before you continue.
Please confirm destination, Shepard. The Reaper IFF is online, but there is a chance that the Normandy may not survive the Omega-4 relay. Once we are en route, we are committed.
The Collectors took my people. Time to go get them back.
You got it, Commander. Plotting a course for the Omega-4 relay. ETA about 2 hours. I'll let you know when we arrive.
In most cases, they aren't signified but shown after you pass a point by a piece of a path being destroyed or even by a cutscene. In our case, the point of no return is pretty much used in every decision. Unless you add a way to go back to a previous choice, the player is constantly restricted by their path. However, I think it's crucial that if you plan on taking the player to a negative path or a path that leads to a specific outcome, you should signify to your player that they are about to cross that point of no return. This is how I implemented that in the game tree. So this is actually the same example that I used from before, where you hear a large screeching sound, but in the dialogue, I made it like super apparent, like, hey, you should not choose a choice where you just stand still. Like, you should run back. The run back is the obvious choice. Where it's, OMG, a car is going to hit me, and this is my last opportunity to go back on my decision to risk my life. But will my indecisiveness kill me, or will it be my disregard for danger? Who knows? So it's either saying my indecisiveness will kill me, or will it be my disregard for danger. So right here is your indecisiveness, and right here is your disregard the danger of the car hitting you, and then you also have the third option of run back. Now this will still ultimately lead to a negative outcome, but you're not going to die. So that's how that works. That's it. Those were just a few ideas you can use when writing your story, and a few ideas that you can carry along with you when you continue your game developer journey. Next video, we're going to dive into working inside of Unity. You're going to learn how to create UI and how to navigate the Unity editor. Very exciting. See you over there.